Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Benar, and I'm back, and I'm watching Why Deathly Hallows Part 1 Left Me Unsatisfied video essay by Movie Flame. And I'm actually a big fan of Movie Flame's videos, but I personally disagree with this take because Deathly Hallows Part 1, I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie to death. So let's see if he can change my mind. Got some food here for me to eat, and without further ado, let's get right into it.
I'm making a video essay on every Harry Potter film, each having their own topic, whether it be why it's the worst, the best, the most underrated, and so on. 6 videos later, here we are on the 7th video, and I'm going to discuss why Deathly Hallows Part 1 left me unsatisfied, both from a Harry Potter fan's perspective and from a filmmaker/writer's perspective. Before I start, I'd just like to say that I in no way dislike this movie. I actually love it, just like I love all of the other Harry Potter films. They hold a place in my heart, and they always will. But for this video, I'm going to point out some things that bothered me in this movie, because no Harry Potter film is perfect. I remember going to see this movie in theaters. I had just
That is
finished
true.
rereading the books for the first time in a few years, as I had sort of taken a break from Harry Potter, because it was too painful to revisit them after my grandmother passed, as Harry Potter was sort of our thing. So my love for
That's
Harry
sad.
Potter had sort of been rekindled, and because I had been gone from the franchise for so long, I sort of felt like a new Harry Potter fan, despite the fact that I had been a fan since I was about 5. Because of this, I had huge expectations walking into the theater, probably more so than I did for any of the other Harry Potter films, and unfortunately, I left feeling sort of let down and very unsatisfied. I thought to myself, it was good, I guess. I chalked it up to having more hype for this film than any of the other films, but I watched it again as soon as it came out on DVD about 2 months later, and again I felt unsatisfied, and I realized it wasn't because I had so much hype, it was because this film just truly let me down. I had some huge problems with it right off the bat. The biggest thing was the way they changed the scene when Voldemort went to see Grindelwald. In the book, this was Grindelwald's redemption. He refused to give Dumbledore up, and let himself be killed rather than let his former friend and possibly lover down. In the movie, however, Grindelwald literally gives Dumbledore up without hesitation, and assists Voldemort in getting the Elder Wand. And to make it
Okay,
worse,
that actually
he
is true.
basically
I do
tells
agree with him on
Voldemort
that
to
part.
defile and destroy Dumbledore's grave, telling him that it's buried with him.
The Elder Wand lies with him, of course.
I don't know why they did that.
The
I
movie
forgot about
completely
that. I
ruined
haven't
his
seen the movie in like a year.
redemption, and honestly, it still makes me sick that fans who have only seen the movies don't know of his heroic final act. I don't understand why they would change this. I just don't see the point. And I'm sure that Warner Brothers is kicking themselves right now, as the entire future of the franchise and all new Harry Potter content relies and focuses on Grindelwald with the 5 Fantastic Beasts films.
I really
This
like the
film has
first
the
2
same problem that
Fantastic
my
Beasts
two least
movies,
favorite
by the
films
way.
in the
I can't
franchise
wait for
have,
the third
and that
one.
is adding scenes that weren't in the book and taking time away from things that they should have and could have added. Although this film is far less guilty than The Goblet of Fire and The Half-Blood Prince.
Now I'm really depressed.
The scene that
Same.
bothered me the most was the addition of Harry and Hermione dancing. I have 2 reasons for this, but this might get a lot of Harry and Hermione shippers mad. Harry and Hermione are friends, nothing else. So to
I'm
have a
furious
scene where
right
they
now.
almost kiss, a scene that was not in the book, was taking it way too far.
I love this
Especially
scene,
because
bruh.
This was the book where Rowling set
What
the
a
record
hating
straight about
bitch.
Harry and Hermione.
I'm
In the
just
book,
messing. I love
right
this
after
guy.
Ron destroyed the Horcrux, and when Harry finds out that Ron was jealous of his relationship with Hermione, Harry says, "She's like my sister. I love her like a sister, and I reckon she feels the same way about me. It's always been like that. I thought you knew." So I just felt that adding this scene was very out of place and sort of disrespectful to the source material, especially because they focus so much on Ron being jealous of the 2 of them, having a whole montage about it. So now, adding this scene, it makes us think that there is romantic chemistry there, and Ron actually has a reason to
Doesn't
be
have to
jealous,
mean
which
that.
is the complete opposite of what Harry said in the book. I know that there are so many fans out there that ship Harry and Hermione, and even JK went back and said that she wished she had paired the 2 of them instead of Hermione and Ron, which honestly made me mad because she contradicted what she wrote in the Deathly Hallows. Of course, this wouldn't be the first time she contradicted herself or changed the source material, like making Hermione black, when clearly in the book it said that she was white.
That's
Going
true.
back to the dancing scene, instead of having this, I wish that they could have fleshed out more of the backstory between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, or have them add that scene that they cut where Dudley gets his redemption.
It's a really good scene.
Other than that though, the film was pretty accurate to the book, and they nailed it with pretty much every single scene. Breaking into the Ministry was really exciting. The scene at the Lovegoods was really well done. Visiting Godric's Hollow was thrilling, and the Malfoy Manor segment was really exciting too.
Oh my
I
god.
could point out nitpicks in this movie, like Wormtail not actually dying, just getting stunned, or the fact that the coloring that they chose for this film is super dark and made some scenes almost impossible to see, or even that the chase scene in the forest was horribly filmed and cut together. But that's a matter
I do
of
agree
opinion.
with that.
I personally don't like
The
the
chase
shaky
scene is
cam
pretty
used
bad.
to that extent. This tactic is used well in short segments, like when Harry went after Bellatrix in the 5th film, because it makes you feel like you're in the middle of the action. But in the 5th film, it was just used for a short period, and then went back to the normal steady cam. The chase scene, however, was shaky cam pretty much the whole time, and it made it hard to see what was going on. But again, that's just my opinion. Some people like the shaky cam. Everything I've mentioned are just small moments in an otherwise great film. As I said, I really do love this film. So I
Me
wanted
too.
to know why I felt so let down by this movie, and why it left me so unsatisfied. So I began to analyze the film, and I actually discovered why I think that is. I think this is in large part due to how they split the film into 2 parts, which can be done well. I think that Mockingjay did it really well. But the thing is, Rowling used a specific writing style called the hero's journey for each of her books. It's a 12-step process created by Joseph Campbell, and it's sort of like a writing skeleton that tells the overall narrative in those 12 parts. I actually made a Harry Potter video focusing on this writing style about Harry's life, but that was about the hero's journey throughout the entire series.
I've seen
As I
that.
said in that video, each individual book in the series has its own hero's journey isolated to just that novel, and I took the liberty of breaking this journey down for the Deathly Hallows book. And trust me, I'm going somewhere with this, so stay with me. Step 1 is called the Ordinary World. This is where the hero starts their journey before going into a strange new world. In this book, this is Harry's time before they go on the run without an actual place to stay. So this covers his time at the Dursleys, then at the Burrow, and then at Grimmauld Place.
Oh.
During this time, he had a safe place
Drop
to
some
stay,
napkins.
and they're all familiar places that we've seen throughout the series. It's still the ordinary Wizarding World as we've come to know it over the past 7 books. Step 2 is called the Call to Adventure, which is defined as booting the hero out of their comfort zone, and the hero being confronted with a problem or a challenge. This is when the Order takes Harry from the Dursleys. It's the first time he's in danger in the book, and it's the first mission he faces, which then brings us to the 3rd step, which is the refusal to the call. This is quite obviously Harry saying that he's not going along with their plan.
Absolutely not.
Told you you'd take it well.
No, if you think
I
I'm gonna
like
let
this scene,
everyone
it's
risk their
pretty
lives for me.
Step 4 is called Meeting the Mentor, and this is defined as the hero ready to go on their adventure, but they're not able to do it on their own. So Ron and Hermione take on this role as they accompany the hero and help them along the way. They're of course not Harry's mentor, as Harry is in charge of the mission.
You're the boss.
But for this step, mentor can mean many things, including being Harry's support to destroy the Horcruxes. Step 5 is called Crossing the Threshold, and it's defined as the beginning of the journey. As I said before, Harry's in a safe place during the duration of being at the Dursleys, the Burrow, and then Grimmauld Place, because they're all familiar to him and to us as an audience. But he really crosses the threshold and begins his journey when they leave their comfort zone and can't go back. And that exact moment was when they break into the Ministry of Magic and spend the rest of their mission moving from place to place in a tent. This step is further defined saying this: from this point on, there's no turning back. And that's exactly what Harry, Ron, and Hermione realize at this point in their journey. Step 6 is called Tests, Allies, and Enemies. This step takes up the majority of the story, and in the Deathly Hallows, this is the case, as it takes up a huge chunk of the novel. As Harry is on this step in the journey, he meets allies along the way, like Dobby, Kreacher, Griphook, Ollivander, Luna, Neville, and everyone else at Hogwarts. However, he also meets enemies like Bellatrix, the Malfoys, the Snatchers, Death Eaters, and even Voldemort. The tests that they face range from breaking into the Ministry, going to Godric's Hollow, going to the Lovegoods, being taken to Malfoy Manor, going to Gringotts, and finally to Hogwarts. And that brings us to our
Dude, that
seventh
part
step,
is so good.
approach to the inmost cave. This is defined as the dangerous spot where the enemies are near. In the Deathly
There's just
Hallows
so much
book,
to love about
this
this
is the Battle
movie.
of Hogwarts. Step 8
I
is
don't know
called
how
the
you could be
Ordeal, which
left
is defined as the
disappointed
test of
or
all tests, and that is
unsatisfied
Harry
with
giving
it.
his life in the forest. Step 9 is the reward, what the hero gains after going through the ordeal. In the Deathly Hallows, this is the battle restarting and the good guys beginning to win. Step 10 is called the road back, which is defined as this: the light at the end of the tunnel might be a little bit further than the hero thought. This is obviously Harry still having to kill Voldemort and destroy the Horcrux and the snake. Step 11 is the resurrection. This is the final test for the hero, Harry fighting and defeating Voldemort. And finally, step 12 is called the return, the triumphant homecoming for the hero. This is the aftermath of the Battle of Hogwarts and everyone being happy it's over. And looking further down the road, it's Harry, Ron, and Hermione having a normal life and families 19 years later.
Yep.
So as you can see when breaking down the book, each step relies on the other. But the thing is, by splitting this film into two parts, you cut the hero's journey writing process in half, meaning everything we watch in part 1 has no payoff. We see him cross the threshold to begin his journey, but we don't see how it ends. We see him meet his allies along the way, but we don't see how their influence helps Harry face his final fight. In the hero's journey writing process, each step is the build up to the final battle, but without seeing the final battle in this film, it makes each step and test he faced sort of pointless and very far away from the original story. The film stops in the middle of step 6. We don't even see the final 2 tests of breaking into Gringotts and his journey to Hogwarts before he meets step 7 of approaching the inmost cave, which here is the Battle of Hogwarts. Everything is cut short, and we don't see the end of the story or get any payoffs that this film set us up for. All we're left with is just being unsatisfied. It's like telling a kid a bedtime story and stopping halfway through and then telling them goodnight. They wouldn't go to sleep, they would demand to hear the rest of the story. I think this is a huge reason why I felt sort of let down by this film, because they made an ending out of something that was not meant to be an ending. When pairing the first half of the book with the trio camping out and the final battle of Hogwarts, they go well together.
For the most part, I
Ron
can just
leaving in the first half of the book
put on the movie right after,
the Battle of Hogwarts
the second one, I
more.
mean.
And we see how the camping out influences the way the three work together during
It's
the
more
Battle
like
of Hogwarts.
one long-ass
But in
movie
Deathly
for me.
Hallows Part 1, we just see the camping out and Ron running away. And sure, he comes back by the end, but we don't see his true redemption in Hermione's eyes until they're at Hogwarts and they have their first kiss. It also makes all of these slow and dull moments in the first half of the book the main chunk of the movie. This movie's climax was not meant to be a climax because it was made to be part of Step 6 in the middle of the story, Tests, Allies, and Enemies. Rowling wrote that to be filler in the middle of the story, so making it the climax of the film just felt awkward. This film is filled with mostly slow moments, and they don't really work to be the main chunk of the movie. It works in the book because we get the ultimate payoff with the Battle of Hogwarts. The slow moments roll into the huge action-packed battle, but we of course don't see this battle until the next film. The hero's journey is not meant to be split into two parts,
I don't know.
and
I think
know
it's
it allowed
alright.
for more information to be added to the films. But as I said, it hurt the pacing and the overall story arc that this film focused on. And sure, you can watch part 1 and part 2 back to back, but when it first came out, when I walked out of that theater unsatisfied, this was not the case. I had to wait 8 months for part 2 to come out. A movie should be able to stand on its own, because ultimately, it's one film. It was released by itself.
I
It
think
should
that's
not have
true.
to
I'm
rely
glad
on
that it's
another film to
2
satisfy
parts though, because it's a lot more content.
All in all, yes, this
I don't
movie
think it
left
would have
me very
been as good of a
unsatisfied,
movie
but
if
I
it was
still
just
enjoy
the
it.
one.
I'm glad I made this video though, because after analyzing it, I now understand exactly why I walked out of that theater feeling the way I did. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, or at least learned something from it. Stay tuned for my video essay on Deathly Hallows Part 2.
I might
and
do
later
a
on down
reaction
the
to
road,
that.
My video essays on the Fantastic Beasts films. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media. to
This
see
guy
more
is so
personal life
wholesome.
and see more of this little
Drop
team.
him a
You
sub
can follow me on Twitter
if you
and
haven't
Facebook
already.
for Movie Flame updates. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be featured in the next video, plus get a bunch of other rewards, become a patron today. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you press that like button and subscribe.
Facts.
Check out
I will be
more
dropping a
videos
like.
on the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I still disagree. I still really enjoy this movie. I do think he has a fair point as of like when he watched it in theaters, he couldn't go watch the second one, and when I watch it, I can just go watch the second one. So I do kind of agree with that, but I still really enjoy the movie, and it ends with Dobby's death, which in my opinion is probably close to or the saddest death in the whole series. I mean, it's up there with Snape and Sirius for me. I mean, that makes me cry. For real, it just makes me cry. And the music composed by Alexander Desplat, that specific piece, Farewell to Dobby, is just so good. It's so well made that it really just makes you feel something. And when you listen to it, it just brings all the emotions back. It's just such a well-written piece of music. All of the people who worked with the music in Harry Potter are just so good. Alexander Desplat, as I said. John Williams, who's fucking like a mega mind when it comes to music and stuff. I mean, all the music in Harry Potter is just so special, and it's such a special part of my childhood. And that's why I love it and the movies and the books so much. because it all just ties together in such a nice way. But that's about all I have to say about it. If you even got to the end, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye. Thank you.